This is Martin John, and we are here to talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BCE, and or BC, depending on if you're religious or not. It is a text that helps us live a more reasonable life. What I mean when I say a more reasonable life is that we live a life in which we're not asking other things to change for us. We embrace the idea that the world is as it is. People have the freedom to do what they want. We have the freedom to do what we want. And we allow that. We allow others to be as they are. And in the Tao, we talk about this idea that like individuals will grow when they can receive Tao. And if you are living in accordance with Tao, then it will inspire others to do so, and that will inspire others to do so, and then it will spread across the universe. Is the idea. Have you ever been inspired by your cat or your dog, where you see them and they're not I don't know about dogs so much. I'm not. It's not that I'm it's not that I'm not a dog person. I don't have dogs. I've lived with them, and they seem to take on the anxieties of their owner. Cats can do that as well, but I remember even as a kid, like I would look at my cat and I would be like, "Oh man, they can just sit there. They don't give a damn. They don't get like you could be doing stuff, and as long as you're not near them, they're not going to move. They're just going to sit there in their little sunspot and enjoy their life." And you could be raising a ruckus. Like my mom could be beating me and my cat's just going to sit in the living room and like soak in the sun. And the cat is innocent. Right? The cat's not engaged. The moment you start to engage the cat will either walk away or engage or protect itself or express itself in some way. And that's a great experience to understanding how Tao works. That doesn't mean sitting idly by when you are inspired to say something or stand up and do something, but you're not required to do that. That's not something that, like I know in our world of manifestation, we talk about like the ethics of not saying things and what have you, but not everybody is going to be able to say something. It's like, how many projects have we started because we thought that was what we were supposed to do, and then we stopped halfway through and just were like, I don't have the energy to finish doing it, right? And a lot of times, like, we started those projects because we thought that we're supposed to be productive, we're supposed to be doing something, we're supposed to be this way, and so we start doing these things, but we don't finish them because it's really not in our heart to do them. Like aligning with that kind of work and starting to understand who we are. This is why I talk so much about recovering yourself. So this is Tao of the Day. Catherine's going to be joining me. And in Tao of the Day, we pick a number and read the Tao. Catherine, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. Are you familiar with Tao of the Day?
I've been listening for a couple days.
Okay, so you do know what we do.
Yes,
Sometimes I have to just kind of fill people in just in case. So
sure.
what's going on with you these days?
Well, I'm dealing with my rabbit I've had for 10 years coming to the end of his life. So
Oh,
that's been, yeah, he's like my baby. So
yeah.
that's been, um, I've been working on accepting that. I mean, all living things die. And I mean, he's lived twice his life expectancy. So
Wow. Good on you.
yeah, I must have done something right,
Yeah.
but I love him so much. And that's why I know that's why it hurts so much, to know that I'm going to be losing him, you know.
And I know in the whole world of life and death, we talk a lot about like, well, he's not really gone, like because his
Yeah.
spirit is with you and all of that kind of stuff. But, you know, this is, I always look at pets as being like lessons, right? Like lessons of just like being able to to continue to love this being and understand that this being is showing us so much of ourself,
Yeah,
you
he
know?
really is. I
Yeah.
yeah, I really enjoyed my time with him, you know. He knows I'm talking about him. He come look at me.
He's like, wait, I'm not gone yet. Like, I'm still here. What's up? Well, let's go ahead and pick a number between 1 and 81 and see if we can find some guidance.
Okay, let's go with 13.
13. Lucky number 13.
Yeah.
So lucky number 13 is entitled Finding Equality at the Extremes. Now, this is a little bit longer, so I'll let you know when we're all done. And because it's long, just kind of focus on what pops out at you, and then we'll go through it line by line. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So finding equality at the extremes. First thing that comes to my mind is, like we have extremes, and there's equality between them. Like they're kind of the same on either end of the spectrum. So let's go ahead and read through this. To succeed and to fail are equally undesirable. Creation and destruction are equally present within us. What do I mean by to succeed and to fail are equally undesirable? The more success you have, the more you protect it by hiding failure. The more you associate with failure, the more you embody it. When neither success nor failure is identified as the destination, being becomes the objective. What do I mean by creation and destruction are equally present within us? Having a body and a mind with which we identify gets me involved in the manifestation. The manifestation convinces me of my actions, and so naming them, I both create and destroy, neither of which are unique. To see yourself with indifference, you will have faith in all things. To see the world with indifference, you will be able to care for it all. What are your thoughts?
Well, I like that. They're similar.
Mm-hmm.
Because an ending is also a beginning of something new. So it's like
Right.
a never-ending cycle, really.
That's right.
So
That's absolutely
there's
right.
really not creation or destruction.
That's
It's
right.
just something else getting out of the way for something else that needs to come along.
And what's so beautiful about this in what you're facing right now is this line that really popped out at me for you is having a body and a mind with which I identify gets me involved in the manifestation. What's the name of your bunny?
Hershey's, like the candy bar.
Hershey? Okay.
Hershey's, like the candy bar.
Yeah. So gets you involved in the manifestation. So you are now involved in the life of Hershey. However, this is your life that you're experiencing, right? And
Right. Yeah.
so Hershey is part of the manifestation, like the identity of Hershey as your pet, as your rabbit, as your, you know, like this identity of yours.
Right.
The manifestation convinces me of my actions, convinces me that you're the one that brought Hershey this long life and all of this stuff. And so naming it, meaning that you identify with it, you named Hershey literally.
Mhm.
You gave Hershey an identity that they weren't necessarily born with intrinsically. And so you both create that while you destroy like the deep root of Tao that Hershey is. Because
Hmm.
you put Hershey in this box of identity, neither of which of those are unique. And so when Hershey dies, Hershey's not going to change. Hershey's going to continue to be, but it's not going to be in the box of manifestation. It's not going to be in the body. It's not going to be in the identity that we put them in.
Yeah, I see that the physical form to me is more like a trap at times,
Yep,
and death is us being free from the limited form that we've been put in.
absolutely. And it's like this is a celebration of like releasing the body and releasing the weight of the body. And And to know that Hershey loved the manifestation with you for so long, to stick around for twice as long as his brethren
Hmm.
is is to be celebrated.
Yeah. Well, I really like this talk. That's that was the right number to pick, I think.
Well, it always is. And this moves on to, like, I mean, it talks about success and failure. And I don't know if you have anywhere in your life where you're kind of struggling with that as well.
I am.
Um, but it's the same, because that success and failure, both of those are identities. Both of those are it's on a measuring stick, and Tao, doesn't measure. There is no measuring. It just is. Things are as they are in this moment, as they are.
Hmm.
There's no measuring. There's no good and bad, right and wrong, and all of that. There is receiving from Tao. And when you receive this moment without judgment, when you receive this moment, you can, it's that idea of, like, even if you're failing, you're not done, right? Like, so
Yeah.
even if you identify this moment as, oh, I don't like that happened. Well, that might inspire you, if you're open to receive the inspiration, to
Well,
do
like,
something else.
I'm sorry.
No, no, please continue.
I've kind of come to the point where I feel like failure is more like a decision that I made to quit trying.
Mm,
Like, you know,
beautiful.
you don't actually fail as long as you keep trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish.
Right. You're
I
not
mean,
done.
yeah, yeah. It's just, you need to try it a different way, or, reconsider, maybe what you're trying to accomplish. Not necessarily like failure. Failure is final. That's like, I quit, I
Right.
give up, I'm
Like,
done.
that's the end. Like
Yeah.
like I go into a competition and the competition will end. And so I did not win this time, or I did not do what I wanted to accomplish this time, or whatever. All of those things can be, re-established. And even success. This is why failure is so important, because failure, quote unquote,
Hmm.
um could inspire you to move forward. Success can often inspire you to stagnate, because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, like, I succeeded. Let's keep doing it this way.
Yeah. You get complacent.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Catherine, thank you so much. This was such
Yeah.
a beautiful conversation. And what I like to do, if I get the opportunity, is send this text to you on the chat in the back end of this, um, just because it's good to be able to go back and look at it.
Sure. Great. That's
All
great.
right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And again, you probably know this. My timer's a little funky, so it
Sure.
might look like you have 5 minutes left, but really you have 44 seconds. So,
Okay.
all right.
All
Thank you
right. Well,
again.
thank you very much.
We'll connect again sometime.
Okay. Thanks.
Ciao. So, if anybody has a number between 1 and 81 you would like to select, please feel free to come up and let me know, and we'll go through it together the way Catherine and I just went through number 13. Um, this finding equality at the extremes this verse number 13. The the title really kind of does say it all, doesn't it? Like, I'm just taking a note really quick that Catherine chose number 13. Um, Finding equality at the extremes, find, like, good and bad. Where's the equality there, right? Like, how can we find the equality in that? And we have to understand that, like, the answer that's right for me might be wrong for you. So it's not, and when we stand for something, it's oftentimes that we get faced with its opposite. We get faced with the idea that, like, oh, well, if this is right, then this is wrong. And it's like, those things aren't always the case. When we put out a measuring stick of right, wrong, cool, lame, um, good, evil, you can find equality there, like, like in war, you have the good guys and the bad guys, and the difference is the way they're seeing their fight. Like they see their fight. Like everybody thinks they're the good guy. No one goes into war and go, we're the bad guys and we're going to do the bad thing, right? Everybody thinks they're the hero, right? Everybody thinks that they're right. That's why there's equality there. It's not, even though they're on the complete opposite ends, they are the same. It's like circular, cyclical. At the end of this is like to see yourself with indifference, which means not having that identity, not identifying with that. When you can be indifferent to you will have faith in all things. You'll have faith in the fact that, like, oh, Hershey is going to pass. You're gonna have faith in that. And yes, it hurts. Of course it hurts. However, that's your hurt. And you don't have to identify with that hurt. You can simply observe it. And it doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be something that you identify as bad. You can allow that to happen. You can allow yourself to hurt or be sad. And that doesn't mean you have to give into it. You don't have to identify with it. You don't have to, you can be like, I woke up and I felt crappy. Okay, well, does that mean I now lean into having a crappy day? Well, it could, but that's you identifying with waking up and feeling crappy. However, you could see yourself with indifference and just observe, oh, look, this body doesn't feel good today. What what does that mean for me? What does that ultimately have to do with anything? Like, do I have to lean into it? That's an invitation to lean into it, right? Like every morning you wake up and you're like, ugh, I feel gross. And this relates really closely to me because I just got back from Spain visiting my family in Galicia. And while I was there, I was off my diet. Now, for those of you who have listened to me before, I have back in 2014, I got diagnosed with MS. And I'm on a very strict high-fat diet to mitigate my MS. And or to manage my MS. I don't know exactly what mitigate means, but to I just use the word. I don't know. I'll look it up later. So to manage my MS because I don't take meds. And I knew if I'm going to Spain, I'm going to want to eat foods like bread and chorizo, which is processed. I don't eat processed foods. I don't eat carbs. I don't eat sugars. And because I was off my diet for a week in Spain, I decided, well, when I come back to the States, I'm going to give myself a couple days before I get back on my diet so I can eat things that I've wanted to eat. Last night I went out and I got pizza with some friends because I don't eat dairy and I don't eat bread. And I got like a regular pizza and it was good. And so, and then afterwards I went to Whole Foods and I got a non-dairy ice cream bar and I ate that. This morning I woke up and I felt trash, man. Oh God. And like, I feel like all stuffed up now and all of this. And I can identify with it, right? Or I can just observe it. I can just be like, oh, okay, well, this is how I'm feeling right now. Yep. Look at how stuffed up I am. Look at how my body kind of cracks. Look at how all of this stuff happens. It's like, oh, I don't want to eat sugar. Like, because this is what happens when I eat sugar. I remember waking up stuffed up. I haven't woken up stuffed up in a year. Probably longer than that. But back in June, I had a flare up of my MS, which really buttoned up my diet really strong. And so all of this stuff is about like how I identify. Do I identify with how I woke up and I felt? Because if I do, then, like I feel gross and I feel this and I feel that, I'm going to be rude to other people. And I may be. but I'm not going to lean into it. I'm not going to allow it to define who I am. The extreme being like, I feel one way, now I feel a different way. And it's good just to observe it, not to have to identify with it, not to have to go through and live my life according to it. There are days I wake up and I feel sad. And when I feel sad, well, I just allow myself to feel sad. Johnny's going to join me. It's been a long time since we've chatted. Johnny, how are you, man?
Hey, Martin John, I'm good, thank you. And
Good.
I remember listening to you before you went to Spain, and you had the awareness then, and the idea that you were going to come off your diet then, and you knew that when you come back, you might have a bit of time where you might go out with friends, you indulge a little bit,
Yeah.
but you already had that awareness, and I remember being quite impressed that you kind of anticipated it was going to happen, but you also had a solution to how to deal with it when actually you came out the other side.
Yeah, it's awareness is a hell of a thing, man.
Yeah.
Like it's really there's nothing more, like for me, there's nothing gave me the life, like the ability to be present than more than awareness. Awareness is so, like, it's so important. Even in fixing my house and doing all these things, it's just like, oh, I'm not going to do it today, and that's okay. But there is a day that I am going to do it, and when that day comes, I'm going to dive into it. And everything. It's so good to have awareness of things that your body might want or not want to do. And I mean, I'm 48, so I've had this body for a while. You know what I mean? And with 23 years clean and sober, I've had awareness for a while. Like I'm not escaping as much as many people. And then with my diet, like I can see today like how much sugar and bread like really does affect my mind and the way I feel in my body. And when people say like, oh, I don't feel good, or this, and you tell them, I don't tell them, but like in my mind, I'm like, have you thought about changing your diet or changing something? And they're just like, I don't feel good. I'm just going to continue living the way that I have. And it's like, well, there's no awareness there.
Absolutely. And you've also established a baseline that you can now make a comparison with. So
Right.
you know what it feels like to be off all of those things, and you know what it feels like to feel good.
Right.
And so you can you went into your trip to Spain with your eyes wide open.
Yeah.
And I think that I think that's a great place to be. It's really nice to have you back from Spain, by the way. And thank you for. I think you mentioned the other day you were going to do these at a certain time, roughly. So
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
So
this is gonna be the time that I'll be doing it. I'm gonna try and stay on for an hour. If nobody joins me, I'll definitely just kind of dip out. But I'll always go through a DAO, and
okay,
whether I pick it or someone comes and joins me, and I'm gonna probably try and keep it to an hour as well.
of course.
Just because there is a point where if it's exciting and I'm enjoying myself, great. But I remember having done 3-hour DAOs, and those are exhausting.
Wow. Yeah. Well, could I pick number 48 today, please?
48, absolutely. How is your exploration with the DAO these days?
Yeah, no, it's good actually. I was doing if if I go off on any tangents, feel free to
Oh yeah.
bring me back. But I was doing a qigong class the other day, and we were
Mm.
talking about wu wei
Yep.
and the idea of effortless effort.
Yeah.
And I know some people call it not forcing or unforced action,
Hmm.
and that really made me. That's the place I want to operate from.
Yeah.
So that's that's what I've been trying to embody a little more.
Well, 48 is going to be a perfect verse for that.
Right.
The more you know is the title, and it goes, pursuing knowledge, you accumulate daily, turning your true nature into a commodity. Pursuing Tao, you unburden daily, allowing your true nature to guide you. The master unburdens herself again and again, diminishing, releasing, and deprogramming, until finally there's nothing left to be. When there is nothing to be, there's nothing to do, and everything gets accomplished regardless.
Yeah. I think yeah. That's so spot on with Wu Wei. And I'm still going through your YouTube videos, and I picked up this number 48, and then as I go through your YouTube videos, I write down notes.
Yeah.
And ironically, unforced action was one of the notes that came to me when sort of I was when I was listening to your YouTube video.
Yeah.
I think the line that stands out to me is allowing your true nature to guide you.
Yeah.
'Cause that feels so important to me. In your YouTube videos, from what I recall from my notes, you talk about pre-packaged solutions.
Yeah.
And I certainly have felt that in the past, in that I was thinking about why so I went with the surgeon I went with, and I realized I wasn't looking at the situation as it was. I was looking at the situation as I wanted it to be.
Right.
And I remember looking at the person's CV and thinking, oh yeah, that ticks a lot of boxes.
Right.
And then I thought about it afterwards, and I thought, I used to recruit people on teams, and we'd see some amazing CVs, and I just think, and everybody makes their CV look amazing, and it doesn't really tell you a lot, to be honest.
That's right.
And so I think in my heart, I knew what to do. And so my true nature knew what to do. But I had this prepackaged solution, and I was trying to force it into to solving the problem that was that sort of was in front of me. And yeah, I think so. So that's how the this verse spoke to me.
So remember how when we started this conversation, you talk about like me having awareness of what I'm going to face and all of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Those that could be very, very much a prepackaged solution, like you're saying. However, it's really just for what I'm doing. Now, this is where, like the last verse we read. If you were here for that,
I didn't. It's 13, but I didn't. I only caught the end of it.
Okay. Well, 13 really kind of talks about this idea of equality at the extremes, where it's just like, okay, that means everything is the same. Like, even if you get out to the extremes, like your extreme of like, oh, this is what I'm seeing, and you are being guided by influence, and you're being guided by all of this stuff, and you have a prepackaged solution. Well, then you could look at what I'm doing and say, oh, that's a prepackaged solution as well, because there's equality at the extremes. But the way I'm doing it is I'm just adding awareness so that when it happens, I'm aware of what is happening.
Yeah.
And true nature isn't knowledge, right? And that's that first line that we said, pursuing knowledge you accumulate daily. What did you do when you grabbed the CV? You were pursuing knowledge.
Pursuing knowledge. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
turning your true nature into a commodity, into just something that's traded. So what happened was you looked at the CV, said, oh, ticks a lot of boxes. Now all of a sudden you're engaged in transaction.
Yeah.
Pursuing Tao, you unburden daily. And you just trust. Right? Allowing your true nature to guide you. The thing is you didn't have any awareness of what trust was at that point because you were still living under the influence of fear, other people's ideas, because you were asking other people. How could you not?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right? And so you turned your trust over. You turned all of your trust over to the institution.
Yeah.
And maybe friends, family, whatever, all of that kind of stuff. You just dropped off, by the way, so please come back up. My timer's all kind of funky, as you know. So pursuing Tao, you unburden daily. You unburden yourself of even the burden of having the issue, and you just say, where do I want to go? You know the answer always. You know, even this morning when I was journaling, I was like, man, I feel like crap and and I was just like, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, but I still want to eat this ice cream that I bought. And I was like, wait, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Not if you feel like this, you don't. Just give it to your neighbor. It's so much easier that way.
Yeah.
You know? And then I have to balance out, well, do I still want to have those French fries from the barbecue place? Well, I haven't had them yet, so maybe I can. And okay, like I could go to the barbecue place, which can serve me food that I can eat on my diet, and I can have my last bit of potato before I let it go. Am I okay with that? Going in with my eyes wide open, I say, okay, well, when the time comes, I'll make that decision, but I'm open to it. I am no longer open to eating the ice cream.
And
But it's
that's,
important to make that decision. Because if you don't make the decision, it's up in the air and you're going to do it because it's sugar and it's a drug.
you're making the decision to be open to it.
I'm making the decision to be open to potato. Yeah.
Yes, you're
Yeah.
making, which is actually also a nice place to be, in that you haven't committed one way or the other.
Right.
You're going to see how you feel when sort
Right.
of the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah. And it's wonderful to go into that because like when you went into choosing your surgeon, you were like, I mean, you were looking at CVs. You were obviously looking for certain things. You
Well,
know?
yeah, I think,
And you had a story already in your mind.
I did have a story, yeah, and I allowed it was more logic and fear. Well, although that sounds a little illogical, it was more my sort of ego and fear.
Right. Pursuing knowledge. You pursued knowledge. You were like,
Yeah.
okay, like I need something to, like, here's my fear, and I need something to fight that fear.
Yes.
And the fear is the thing that has us pursue knowledge so that we can be sure it's not going to go wrong.
Yeah, exactly, isn't it? There is some sort of saying around that, isn't there? It escapes me at the moment, but yes. But absolutely. And the issue was I didn't really have the awareness at the time, and I was under the influence of other people, as you so correctly said, and I wasn't seeing things as they were.
Right.
I read a little quote the other day that or a while back, that's really stuck with me, and it said, "When people tell you who they are, believe
Trust. Believe them the first time.
believe them the first time." Yeah, and it was just like I knew what this person was, and my little ego-logical fear mind was going, "No, his CV says this. This person says this,"
Right.
but inside, I knew what they were.
Yeah.
And yeah,
A lot of
and
people get stuck in relationships because of that. It's just like that, I knew on the second date, like this wasn't going to work. And yet,
yeah, I've been there.
I put it out of my mind, and then it came back and back and back. And because I already put it out of my mind, it was so easy to do a third, a fourth, a fifth time.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
Unburdening, as this says, like the master unburdens herself again and again. And these three words are so, like, I took a long time in kind of coming up with these, like, as I read everything. Diminishing, right? So you diminish your identity, you diminish your knowledge, you diminish. Releasing all of the preconceived ideas, releasing the identities, releasing all of that, and deprogramming. Like those three things, if we can like diminish our identity, release the preconceived ideas that we have, and deprogram from all of the influence that we've picked up, until finally there is nothing left to be. Because all of that, all of those things that you're letting go, like that tells you who you are. Diminish your identity. It's like you're not special. Right? Release the idea of you, of your identity, of who you think you are. And deprogram from all of the bullshit that your parents and the education system and the other people have told you. And then there's nothing left to be. You don't have to be something now, and now you can start fresh.
Yeah.
When there's nothing to be, there's nothing to do, and you don't have to make the right choice. You just make the choice that's right.
Well, you make the choice that's right for you, as opposed to the conditioned you or programmed you or this.
And you make the choice that's right for you in the time you're making it.
Yes.
Right? So in 6 years, you are sure that 6 years ago, you made the right choice at that time. Today, if you were faced with it, you would make a different choice.
Yeah.
And in remembering that in this moment, you remember that when you made the decision, it was the right decision at the time. And there is no hint of you being a victim.
I'm still working on that.
I understand. but so if that was the right choice, this is the right place, and of course in a world of litigation and other stuff like that, like those things can keep coming up and keep inviting us to conflict.
Yeah.
We have
absolutely.
conflict with our past self, we have conflict with others, we have conflict with all of that.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to learn from this one verse, one about the moment you're making a decision, but also moments that you have made decisions. And how to learn from that, how to grow from that, how to grow out of it, how to grow into who you will be. This is part of it, after all.
I think that's one of the keys for me, is to understand the learning and the growth in the decisions that have brought me to this place.
Right. And this goes back to those three words: diminish, release, deprogram.
Yeah, exactly.
Because somewhere along the line you were programmed to believe there's a right and wrong, and you made the wrong choice. And because you made the wrong choice, you have to release that idea. And you have to diminish your ego of just like, of all that you cared, of all the story that you convinced yourself was true before you went into the situation. Yeah. But again, that's like, first we start with the idea of like, oh, I want to live this moment within Wu Wei, right? Within this idea of just letting things work through me rather than me work on them. And then when that happens, and you still see the remnants of the decisions that you've made in the past, you can slowly release those, diminish those, and deprogram from the idea that it was your decision. Because I mean, once we kind of give ourselves up to Tao, we realize that we have a lot less free will than we thought we did. And this is a path that we're on to experience this. Now, how much responsibility and how much ego we put into every decision we make really kind of makes our lives either easy or full of struggle.
Yeah, there's a lot there for me. Thank you. I think, as you said the other day, I think I was listening to you. We're here, we're here to experience. We're here to learn. We're here to grow, and it's whether we embrace that opportunity.
Right.
And you didn't say that, but that's whether we have the intent, the awareness, and the intention to do that, and that's what I'm trying, and that's, I guess, why I'm trying to return back to more of a Wu Wei, unforced action, effortless effort approach,
right?
Because I think that's a better place to live from, and actually to do the work from. So yeah. So yeah, I know my time is running out. So
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Martin John. I hope you have a great weekend. And if you do,
thank you so much. Yes, I we'll see what happens, and I'll report back on Monday. It's so, like, I really do love this this 48 the more you know. It is I'm making a note again just so I can send Johnny the text. I think Johnny has my book, so it doesn't I don't have to send it to him maybe, but I can. Pursuing knowledge you accumulate daily, and it's being open to everything. And I think a lot of people have struggled with everything gets accomplished regardless. This last line of this 48. I think a lot of people ask, well, how is it going to get accomplished if I don't do it? How am I going to get to California if I don't plan it out? Well, it might take longer, but you might end up there anyway. Who knows? You don't have to necessarily know where you're going to get there. Because wherever you get to could just be where you needed to go. And it's not. I mean, I suppose we could look at it as woo-woo. We can look at it as like, well, how is the universe guiding me? But as we were talking with Johnny, I wanted to talk a little bit more about this idea of free will. I look at free will, and I've always struggled a little bit with free will because it's really hard to identify. It's really hard to be like, yes, I have free will. It seems like I have free will, but I only have access to one manifestation, right? Mine. I only have access to one brain. I only have access to one consciousness, right? I only have access in the manifestation, in my body. Of course, I have faith that I have manifestation. I have access to much, much more than that, and that's through Tao and other things like that, and that's great. However, I can only prove anything in the manifestation. And in Tao, it says, well, if you have something to prove, well, then you're already on the wrong track because there is nothing to prove. You are, and that's it. So I talk about, and I've never really written much about this because who cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I believe and what I think. Like, it's all stupid. However, when I talk about, what's it called? I was just talking about it. Free will. And when I talk about free will, I say you have the free will to do two things, and that's it. This is the only thing that you have the free will to do. One of the things that you have free will to do is either surrender or resist what you are doing and how you are living and what experience you're having right now. You can, on that spectrum, and we talked about there's equality at the extreme, so it doesn't matter whether you resist or you surrender. You surrender to it, you resist it, doesn't matter. Your experience is yours. If you resist, you're going to experience this one way. If you surrender, you're going to experience this another way, whatever this happens to be. The other thing we have the free will to do is to tell the story of what this is. And that's it. That's the extent of your free will. As I believe, right? I believe you have the ability to tell the story, and I believe you have the ability to resist or surrender. And that's it. This was going to happen regardless. Now, how you would have experienced it is different. How you would have told the story is different. How you will have experienced the story is different. But all of that depends on your ability to surrender, resist, or tell the story. That's it. Everything else is just happening. And it has nothing to do with you. And it has nothing to do, like, it is, you are, and I talk to people like, let's say you are a cell or a part of a cell in a bigger organism. Just like, a skin cell on your foot. When it dies, do you care? No, you don't care. Do the cells around it care? Yes. Is it supposed to die? And is there a story that's being told? They're just going to go through their motions. And that's what we do. And everything is going to happen as it needs to happen. We are part of a bigger system that we do not have knowledge of, just like the cells on our feet, right? They don't have knowledge of our of the whole system. And if they go off rogue and try and do what they do, like, they become a cancer in our body. And so we have to cut them out, and it poisons the whole system, and what have you. And so this is just what's happening. And you are going through, and you are part of a bigger system. And that bigger system, we could call anything. You can call it God, you can call it heaven, you can call it Yahweh or Muhammad or whatever, however you want to define it. Like, here we talk about it from the aspect in the philosophical text, the Tao Te Ching. And when we engage the Tao, Carly's going to join me. When we engage the Tao, we're able to open ourselves up and see more of who we are. Carly, welcome. How are you?
Good, hope you are.
What was that?
I said good, hope you are.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, I don't know. Are you familiar with the Tao Te Ching and the Tao of the Day? Okay. Carly dropped out. So, yeah, if anybody wants to pick a number between 1 and 81, please join me, and we can chat a little bit about, like, what's going on with you, and then we can pick another number. We currently today have read The More You Know and number 13, Equality at the Extremes. And it's interesting, there is equality from, when we look at these two verses, pursuing knowledge and letting go, there's equality there as well. Right? There's equality in this idea of, like, oh, I'm pursuing knowledge, or I'm pursuing self, and they're all going to bring us to the same place. You can pursue knowledge, and then continue acquiring, and then eventually you may experience the idea that, oh, I don't want to keep doing this. And you will eventually find yourself in the middle of it all. Well, thank you so much for joining me, everybody. No one else has come up. I'm going to give you a couple more moments to decide if you want to come up and chat with me. Otherwise, I'm going to start signing off. I'm Martin John. I got 23 years clean and sober, and that's a big aspect, which is why I talk about the idea of recovering yourself at the end of all of my talks. I say thank you, and continue recovering yourself. I don't. For some reason, I can't come up with the phrase, but I'll do it at the end of the show. If you stick around, you can hear it. And I have a rendition of the Tao Te Ching that I read. So if you have enjoyed the text that I've been going through, you can pick up a copy of the book through my profile and my website. There are plenty of other translations of the Tao that I used to write mine. Stephen Mitchell was I think the first translation that really sparked my interest. It is a beautiful poetic translation. My translation might be a little bit more philosophical. His is a little more poetic. He did his in the 80s, but it is not out of date. I didn't like a couple of his translations, which is what really inspired me to write my own. And I read many other people's as well to guide me in writing this translation, this New English translation that I published earlier this year. So if you're interested in the Tao Te Ching and having an experience similar to this, because I do encourage people to use the Tao more than read it. I mean, some people have told me that after they bought it, well, I haven't read it yet. And I always encourage them, well, every now and again, just pick a number and go through that number and then start just looking at each line. When you read a Tao chapter, it can be a little overwhelming. It can go a couple places and doesn't always necessarily connect intuitively. But when we go through and we start looking at it line by line, we start saying, oh, that relates back to this. I see how that relates now. And maybe not. Sometimes you can read it and be like, oh, and maybe you're just not ready for the message. And that's okay too. Maybe you're just ready for one line, which is why when I read something to somebody and I say, this is the line that pops out at me, like Johnny said, allowing your true nature to guide you. That's the line that popped out at him. And that doesn't mean that that's the only line that's important, but that's something that, you can feel it in your heart. You're like, oh, that's the line. This is the word. This is the moment that I need to pay attention to. So if you start looking at the Tao, I would encourage that. Not that that's the right way of going about it, but that's the way that I started engaging the Tao over 20 years ago, and it has consistently and continuously helped guide me to living a beautiful life of awareness. Not that my life is any different than anybody else's, but it is a gift to live it. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm Martin John. I do work with individuals as well, so you can check out my website. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on this app, and I would be happy to address them. I don't do a lot of answering of the questions here on the app, like the audio stuff. I usually just connect with people. It's not often a way that I like to engage. So, but you can always set up a free consultation with me on my website, which you can find in my profile. Once again, thank you very much for joining me. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.